Welcome back, blade fans and fans of Japanese styled knives. I've got a custom for you again today, and this is from Josh Mason, a really fantastic custom maker. Probably, I would say, underappreciated and maybe not as well known as some other makers. I apologize, Josh, if you actually are, but you know, there's makers out there doing tremendous work that I feel need more notoriety. Maybe he doesn't want it because that'll increase his demand for knives. And sometimes when you're making them in a one-man shop, as Josh is, that you only have a certain capacity. Anyway, he tells me this is called the Kwaiken, and one of his customers that got one of these, there's I think about 4 or 5 of these maybe that have been made, and he called it it's got a name for it here. Sorry, folks. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's made from 8670M steel, because I'm going to forget that one too. Okay, somebody nicknamed it the Ripper Kwaiken. And Kwaiken and Kwaiken are pretty much interchangeable terms. Seems like the predominating term these days is Kwaiken. I'm going to show you one from Williams Knife Company in a moment for comparison. Doesn't look too much like this one. My feeling is Josh took some liberties with this one, and gladly so, because first of all, it is a chisel ground knife, and many of the Japanese knives, both working knives as well as combat style defensive knives, are made in this chisel grind, where you've got a flat on one side and you've got your bevels on the other side. But just take a look for a moment at the beautiful grinds, the crisp grinds on this knife from Josh. Both the longitudinal texture and pattern in there, you can see that very clearly on the flat side, and that's where he chooses to put his logo. Very beautiful plum flower logo, indicating that he does a lot of the Japanese styled blades. And you can see there's a swedge on the top. It does not come to a fully sharpened edge. And you can see where the grind meets the flat on the tip right there. It's a pretty clear view. And again, beautiful grind lines even on the spine of the knife. Then let's take a look at the Tsukamaki wrap, traditional Japanese handle wrap that is used on swords and tantos and lots of things. You see it today even on sticks produced by Bastinelli knives, for instance. And Bastinelli's another company where he's got a group of workers that are just doing the wraps. But Josh does all this work himself, and I love the color. He made this in a black, and he made it in this kind of a natural brown. I feel the brown, I was telling him, looks like it's aged, like it's been used from an old sword. There are no minuki or underlying little features there like you see sometimes that would certainly have added to the expense. And these came in at $250. So, I mean, good Lord, for this kind of workmanship, custom knife, for this to come in at $250 is incredible, because I'm looking at production fixed blades knives, $350, $400, and they've kind of gotten out of hand, and they're made on CNC machines basically, and not by hand. But again, I'll be done gushing over this in a moment. Maybe you will too. And unlike many other folks that are doing the Tsukamaki wraps, he actually gives you a bolster, kind of a guard, which is neat. That does prevent your hand from sliding, but the whole nature of a Tsukamaki wrap with these diamond-shaped patterns in here grip your fingers, so you almost don't need that. But that's a nice added feature. And we've got a usable finger choil right there, which also gives you an excellent sharpening area. Speaking of sharpening, and before I get into measurements, take a look at this edge. And that wasn't my best, was it? It's really a piercer as well. I mean, that point takes nothing to penetrate. And when you wrap your hands around in front of a camera and you don't get the right angle on the paper, it can be kind of embarrassing. So that's on me. You can actually see a little bit of the paper residue left on the blade. I should have done that last, right? Anyway, beautiful, beautiful grinds. Let's just measure this guy up quickly. Overall length is 9 1/4, just under 9 1/4 inches. Got a blade length of 4 1/4. Got a sharpened edge of 4. So it's a good medium-sized knife. It's not particularly small. And I don't like knives that are too small, but, you know, look at that. I got a good inch left over. So you've actually got a bit of a skull crusher there, and it's pretty hard. What he does on this Tsukamaki wrap is after he wraps it, he brushes the wrap with epoxy, and that hardens it up, makes it water repellent, and make sure that it's not going to move around or become unwrapped over time. Let's look at the blade thicknesses. We're set to inches. It's a pretty thick stock, 0.17. And the handle, 0.67. It's nicely contoured, doesn't feel too big. And the blade in millimeters, 4.3 millimeters, so pretty significant. It does come in a Kydex sheath, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. Let's get a weight on it. So what we've got is 7 ounces, essentially. Not going to give you the decimals. And I did say it came with a sheath, and I got the sheath around somewhere. Oh, there it is. It's over there. Let me have you look at the knife for a moment. So Josh makes a very nice basic Kydex sheath where the knife is held in place, on this one at least, with the Tsukamaki wrap. No rattle, and the retention is just about right. You can thumb it off, and it kind of clamshells with this flex around the handle. That's kind of what you want. You don't want it holding the blade too tight. You can scratch it up. One thing that Kydex is known for is getting debris inside the sheath. And as you slide the knife in and out over time, you get lots of nice longitudinal scratches. And you look kind of nasty, especially on a knife that I would consider kind of an art knife in this case because of all the beautiful work that's done on it. Doesn't mean it can't be a really, really nice working knife, whether you're using it for tasks and chores or just to kind of carry it in the waistband as a last-ditch defensive. Not even last-ditch. It could be a primary defensive knife. No hardware for hanging on this. What he did on another knife I'm going to show you in a minute is a nice belt loop here. So those are easy to add. DCC clips are easy to add. Ulti-clips, etc. Or just add a belt loop. Now, for comparison today, this is not a Japanese style knife, but you could consider it one. This is from Morgan Cohen's, and this is another custom knife, but I just brought it out because it is another chisel grind. And what he did on his is give you a bead blast on the flat and a beautiful satin on the bevel side. And he calls this his 3-finger EDC, which is kind of cool. And it is 3 fingers. So it's a much smaller, shorter knife, as you can see, by a considerable amount. Kind of a tiny knife by comparison. Here is a Kwaiken. It's called the Mini Kwaiken, and it is made by Lion Steel out of Sleipner Steel. And that is a Chris Williams design from the Williams Knife Company, made famous by James Williams. Again, considerably smaller, for sure, than the Kwaiken. Kwaiken. We'll call that a Kwaiken, not a Kwaiken. Here's another Josh knife, Josh Mason. This is a hunter style with a beautiful clip point. Really, really nice. And again, you can see his beautiful grind work. Just really crisp and perfect. This one has black G10 for the handles with red rivets out of red G10, kind of a nice contrast, and a lanyard hole. Meant to be more of a working knife. It is not as tall, and it is almost as long as the Kwaiken. The Ripper Kwaiken. Love it. So let's get this guy back in the sheath. Again, he makes a sheath where it's held in mainly by the handle, and they're fairly wide. Some people don't like, all the extra kydex there, but that width here gives it the ability to clamshell around the handle. Well, got to use a folder for comparison because most of us know what the Griptilian size is. So there you have a comparison with the Benchmade Griptilian. Hard to think of what else to say about this gorgeous knife. I'm very happy to have it. Love the economical cost for a custom knife. And I'm going to leave you some links as to how to reach Josh, mainly on Instagram. I don't know if he has a website, but if you go to his Instagram, you can certainly find out if he's got a web presence as well. And you DM him, and if you see something you like that he's already made, you can hit him up for it, or you can ask him to make you something custom or make a variant of something that's out there, I would believe. So there you have the Ripper Kwaiken from Josh Mason. What a beautiful knife. Highly recommend, Josh. And don't forget to give this video a like while you're at it and subscribe. Be back with you soon.